Hello, everyone. Welcome to High Vibes and a Mic. We are your hosts, Sylvia Madden and Veronique Anenter, moms in our 40s and 50s with lots of great spiritual insights and funny stories to light up your day. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm Sylvia and I'm here with Veronique. Hi, Veronique. How are you?
Hello, how are you, Sylvia? I'm good, thank you very much.
All right. So today we are going to talk about five advantages of raising bilingual children. Because I don't know if you guys can tell, we have an accent and we are not from here, from the United States.
Mm,
So, of course, we raise bilingual children. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So, Veronique, what do you think? Like, what are the ones that you have?
For me, the first one will be something very obvious. When they go to high school, they can have I guess, better grade, learning another language because
Mhm.
I'm sure my daughter will take French, so it's going to be easier for her to have better grade in that class. Also, French is very hard to learn. So it might be easier for she's already taking classes. She's already taking private classes because I want her to know how to write it. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be a teacher. No way. So I think that's going to be a good advantage because it's not easy to learn another language. So if you already
Mhm.
speak it at home from little, when you've been little, and just hear it every day, and you try to respond every day, and you can exchange a bit more. You go to high school, it's going to be much easier, like a breeze, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so. So that's like the second one that I would think that's similar, like kind of like following the same line,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's easier for you to learn other languages too, because once
Yeah.
they have that, I think like that side of their brain that is open to learning new languages, they grew up like that, right? So for them, it's just gonna be a natural thing to like, okay, I'll learn this one. Like at home, we speak, we're Brazilian Portuguese, so
Mm-hmm.
they all the funny thing is like they all understand it but they respond in English, so that's another story. But it's going to be easier for them to learn like French like Spanish, which
Yeah.
is very close,
Mm-hmm.
Italian, all the Latin languages, and even French would be easier for someone who knows Portuguese than for like someone who never learned any Latin languages, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is like a good advantage for them. It's just like easier. Those doors are open already for
Yeah.
learning a third language.
My friend Josiane, remember Josiane?
Yeah.
She speaks Portuguese too, and she told me actually French and Portuguese is it's really close. So
Yeah.
it was easy for her to to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking of something I don't remember, but yeah, the fact that you have those two languages and you can learn them, I mean, it's a gift.
Yeah.
So they're not really happy sometimes. I mean, she's not really happy when I tell her you have French class today. So now she's getting better, but at the beginning she was like, I don't want, it's too hard. But now she's getting happy, about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that they reply in English, I think it's natural
Yeah.
because
Right.
yeah, when I grew up in France, and so I'm from the French Caribbean, and my mom was speaking Creole all day long to me. So at
Mm-hmm.
home, she didn't speak. She spoke both, but most of the time she spoke Creole, and I replied in French. I never replied in Creole, although I understand it, I can speak it, but because we were in France, I'm like, I don't have to speak
Mm-hmm.
Creole.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why, that's why I don't say anything to Eden. When she replied to me in English, I'm like, yeah, I did the same to my mom. So I
I
know.
know. It's just, and even when I want to put cartoons on, they
Yeah.
are like, no, can you put it back in English in a normal language? Like my middle son says, like,
Well,
"Sean, can you put it back to normal?"
Oh no.
And my youngest, Connor, he was the other day, like, I changed, I forgot the name of that, like, it's a Netflix cartoon. And with a girl with all the, like, rainbows. What's her name? Like, Gabby's House, I think, something like that.
I don't know.
It's like for little kids.
Yeah.
So I changed that. They have it in Portuguese. So I changed it to Portuguese. And then Connor was like, Mom, the mouth is different.
The
I'm
mouth.
like, no, her mouth is fine. Her
Yeah.
mouth is okay. Don't worry about her mouth. Just listen to what she's saying. Even him, who's not like not even four, he was like, "There's something wrong with her mouth. Like she's not speaking English." So you have to push it, right? You have to be like,
Yeah. But after a while, maybe you won't have to because now Eden automatically sometimes she put in French. She's like, oh,
"Oh
let me
yeah,
see, how, yeah. She watched some stuff on Netflix. So now she watched like teenage, series. And
uh
sometimes
huh,
they have French. And she's like, oh, let me check. And she listened to it in French. So it's not very often, but sometimes I'm like, oh, what happened? The TV is in French. So, and she does it.
that's
So
good."
yeah, I think she likes to be able to switch, from English to French. That bring me to another advantage. I think is also to be
The
able to
third one. Is it
yeah,
the third?
third
Yeah,
one.
going to the third one. Thank
Third
you.
one for me would be to be able to communicate with the grandparents or the family abroad because
Hmm.
none of my family really speaks English, and the grandparents they don't speak English. So there was no way I was going to do the translator back and forth. No way.
Yeah,
So that she can understand them and she can reply when she has to, even with her cousin. Because when we go to France, she's playing with them, so she has to know how to play with them. So that's
yeah.
really yeah. If you know how to speak the language, oof,
And you,
much
in your
better.
case, because you have both you and Pascal speak the same language, so that is easier to
Yeah,
have that
we
going
forgot to
here.
say that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because when you have only one, then with the moment the husband, the dad is in the house, you everybody switches, right?
yeah,
Although, like when I'm talking to them, I'm like just speaking. Sometimes I'm like, ah, that's fine. He doesn't need to understand what I'm saying. So I'm like speaking in Portuguese, and he doesn't know what I'm saying. But then you have like that one more obstacle that is just like not speaking your language all the time at home, right? It's not like
yeah.
he doesn't really.
So
It's hard.
do you naturally speak to them in Portuguese? Do you just naturally always speak to them in Portuguese, or do you sometimes switch to English, or you always speak to them in
I
Portuguese?
try to always speak to, but like sometimes like I feel like if I have to say some words in English for especially my youngest one to look to understand what I'm like. Do you see
Hmm.
like we are gonna do this and that? Got it? So I say
Yeah.
it in Portuguese and then I say it in English and then I'm gonna say it in Portuguese again so that he knows that
Mm.
like just make
Wow.
sure he understand. But like and sometimes Sean is like, but what is that? What word is that? But what do you
Oh, yeah.
say? And
Yeah.
then I go ask Michael, you know what it is, right? What did I say? And then Michael, sometimes he's just like, he's like, well, I think like just by like making like doing some logics there, like putting things
Hmm.
together, like, oh, I think you meant that. I'm like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be kind of working with the like Portuguese and English and Portuguese and English.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's much easier, of course, because we both speak French at home, so there's no back and forth. But my husband started to sleep 2 years ago. He started to sleep up a little bit because he starts speaking to her in English now.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, why do you speak to her in English? I want to make sure she understands. I'm like, she understands. She
I
understands
know. I don't know why we
everything.
feel that they don't understand, like
Yeah, no.
sometimes, right? I don't
Ah,
know, like why, like, am I feeling like, do you understand? But they do.
no, they do. I'm like, you don't need to. It's like, yeah, I want to make sure. No, she understands. And now I'm starting to do it also a little bit, but less, like compared to him, much less than him. I'm always speaking
Mm.
French to her. And she replied in
Hmm.
English, and that's fine. No problem.
Yeah. And in our case too, like Portuguese is not very common language, for here in the US as
Hmm.
Spanish. So you see like tons of Spanish schools and everything, but like Portuguese schools, there's none.
Oh,
So there's
yeah.
not really a place where they can learn unless maybe. Well, I was a teacher in Palo Alto for a while that they actually had
Hmm.
Brazilian Portuguese. So I was teaching Brazilian Portuguese there, but
Hmm.
you don't see it everywhere. It's very rare to find like a school like where they can learn. So
But
maybe through Zoom, in
there's a
Brazil.
there's a big Portuguese community in San Jose.
Yeah, I know, but
So there's
I
no
don't
school
think
there.
there is. Maybe they have like preschools, things
Oh,
like that. Yeah, but now Rio, like,
I forgot you
that's
don't live
cool.
close to it.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go all the way
Yes,
to.
honestly, I'm like, you live far from here. I'm sorry, but you forgot. So maybe around where you live, there's none.
And
Because
here,
I know
let
down here
alone
there's a
here.
big community. So, but where you are,
Yeah.
no, there's nothing.
No, very small. But I don't think that even in San Jose they have schools, which would be great if they did, because there's a huge
Mhm.
Catholic church there. I don't know,
Yeah,
Portuguese church, and usually you would think there is a Catholic school
school
around,
attached to it.
which
Yeah.
would be, since there are so many Portuguese living there, that they would teach Portuguese as well. So I don't know if
Mhm.
they do, which would be great. But for us, yeah, here.
Yeah. Maybe we should ask, Jessica how she did because she grew up here and she told me she took classes with her
Mm.
parents. She didn't learn with her parents. She took
Now she
classes.
took classes there.
Yeah, to
Uh
learn
huh.
Portuguese and everything. So maybe I will ask her, how she did it because maybe you can do some stuff online. Eden not takes online. She takes online classes.
Yeah, online
So
now is the way to do
yeah,
it, right? I think
and
it's easier.
she used to do it with the group, but it was a mess. It was a freaking mess because they were not all at the same level, and
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
was talking. She just gave up afterwards. She's like, yeah, some people are better than so they speak all the time, and the one who don't speak good, they're just afraid. They don't speak anymore. So now I
Hmm.
just do her alone, private, and much better. I see the difference much better. Last year she read Harry Potter in French.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the teacher like asked her, what do you read right now? She's like, oh, I like to read Harry Potter. She's like, oh, okay, let's read it. And they read it in French. I'm like, wow.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Yeah.
Uh,
So
the
you did
a
going to the
fourth
fourth
one?
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fourth. So fourth one, that would be for me, which I think going along these lines about learning more about other countries' cultures, right? Because then
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna
Yeah.
learn, and you're not only limited to your home country. Then, if you know,
Mm-hmm.
like in your case, French, she can learn about like all the other French speaking countries as well. Can travel, can
Yeah.
right, and learn about their
Yeah.
cultures more easily. And same with Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. You can go to Portugal and learn more about the Portuguese culture, and or Angola if you want to go visit. Like they all speak
Mm-hmm.
Portuguese. Not too many countries, but it just like it's easier for you to emerge in
Mm-hmm.
other cultures. So I think it's great. I mean,
Can
it's
can you imagine they have both English and the French or English and the Portuguese? They can go anywhere. I
yeah,
mean,
right.
she can go anywhere in the world. So many English countries, right? And so many
Mm-hmm.
French or Portuguese, languages speaking over there. They can travel the world and,
Yeah.
um, for me, is it the fifth one? Yeah. For me, a fifth one would be also that the accent is going to be not that strong. It's not going to be
Mm-hmm.
perfect. It's going to be like the people who were born in the country. But when I hear Eden speaking French, she knows how to do the R, la very with the R.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't do the intonation like English speaker when they speak. It's like they sing a little. They're like no 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 no. They have intonation. French
Yeah.
people, the tone is like straight. We don't have intonation. We just speak straight.
Mm-hmm.
And she does that. So I think she could maybe blend better. For instance, if I want to send her to school there, they're not going to know right away that French is not her first language. They will know after a while because you can
Mm-hmm.
maybe sense a bit of accent, but the accent is going to be less obvious than me, for instance, coming here in my
Yeah.
30s.
You're never gonna get rid of that accent. Yeah.
No, in my 30s, and now I've been here for 20 years, and it's still. I mean, it's not that like before, but it's still. I mean, we know where I'm from. So
Oh, yeah. Really? No, it sounds so
no, really,
American.
yeah.
It
No,
sounds so American to me.
I'm Italian. It's an Italian
It sounds,
accent.
yeah, totally Italian. Yeah, I know. So even like some sounds, like well, you're talking about the R
Mm-hmm.
in Portuguese is which even like for Spanish people they don't have that sound, and they have a hard time with the AO like sound that we make,
Mm-hmm.
and a very
Mm-hmm.
nasal sound. And
Mm-hmm.
Michael is able to do it, but I
Oh,
don't know if Sean and can do it, like because it's just like no, like the no word, right? No,
yeah,
it's no, no. It's very like nasal, right? And
yeah,
Americans are like anyone who's learning, they're gonna say now.
yeah. Now, yeah.
which sounds so funny. And it's like, no, it's not like that. And so he can do it like easy. It's easier for him, even though I feel
Oh,
like he still struggles a little bit, because it's kind of tricky nasal sound to make. Because otherwise you can make meow. It's not like that, like so you
I'm
just
sure.
have the
I'm
yeah.
sure he can do it because that's a word. I'm sure he heard a lot when he was little. No, don't do this.
Oh my god,
No.
1 million times. And then the curse
Ah,
thing too. Like he probably knows a few cursing words in Portuguese.
yeah, yeah.
Because that's when I go like, yeah, this is stupid BS, and then I just like in Portuguese I just lose it. So he might know another words, some bad words as well. Not that I
Well,
curse out to my children, but
no, you don't. Or Eden asked us to have a swear jar this week.
oh
She's like, we
yeah,
need a swear jar in this house. I'm like, what are you talking about? We don't swear in here. She's like, yeah, you do all the time. I'm like, what? Not us. Perfect parents.
in French
Um,
or in English?
no
Just like
idea what she's talking about. I
uh,
think it's in French. I
maybe,
don't swear in English. I think might
yeah,
be in
right.
French. And for me, I'm like, he doesn't understand. I think she does now.
Yeah, she probably does.
One thing that's funny too, she started also to catch some Creole because we went to the Caribbean in July, and it was funny. So people there were like, "So do you know how to speak Creole? Do you speak Creole?" And and she's like, "Yeah, I know some words." And they're like, "Oh, what is it?" And she's like, "Pela," and that means like that means like shut up.
Oh,
So they're like, "Okay, maybe your dad said that too much at home,
yeah,
like
right.
shut up." And she's like,
That's
"Yeah,
how she
Pela."
learned.
I was thinking, like, okay, that's all you know in Creole. You don't know to say hi or goodbye.
Yeah, like the basic. Like Patrick also learns just like some random words because I say it all the time to them, so he knows. Like he repeats the words. Like yeah, you just
Cool.
know because you hear me saying all the time. Like do this. Like oh, stop that. Or that's enough. That's enough is a big one that I always say.
How do
So
you say
that's
that?
huh?
How do you say that in Portuguese? That's
Chega,
enough.
chega, chega. It's like chega,
Chega?
enough.
That's
Yeah,
easy. It's like short word, like one
it's
word.
just one word. Yeah, just like chega.
Wow.
So they keep saying it.
I,
But yeah.
I don't know about you, but did you understand them when they were little? Because, okay, crazy notion, but
Mm.
I thought she was going to speak French baby talk in my mind.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
she was with me all the time, but after, of course, she started going to daycare, and so she was talking to me in baby talk, and I'm like, this kid still doesn't talk. How come she's not
Uh-huh.
talking? She's 2, 3 years old, she's not talking. I don't understand what she's saying.
Oh,
And
but
once my friend
okay.
Stephanie, the doula, she was talking to her, and I'm like, uh, how come you're talking to her? And she's like, yes, she just said blah blah blah, and I'm like, how do you know? She's like, that's baby talk. So she was talking in English baby talk, not French baby talk.
There's actually something about when some bilingual children that can take longer to start speaking. Like I've heard something
Mm-hmm.
about that. Like
Yeah.
that is a little bit of a delay. So I was worried
Mm-hmm.
with my middle son Sean that he was also like with the sounds, like
Mm-hmm.
like it was hard to understand. And I was talking to a speech therapist. I'm like, should I continue speaking Portuguese? Is it gonna
Yeah.
because he had to work in some sounds, like the s sound that he was like with the lips making like a different. How do they call that? There's a name for that. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, like she was helping him like work with those sounds, and then I asked her, should I just focus on English because I don't know if it's like making him more confused. It's like no, that doesn't affect at all. Like don't worry about that. So
Yeah.
if they're struggling, like taking longer to speak, or even if they have the issues with the tongue, that after a
Mm-hmm.
while they get better. But just like the sound that they need to learn how to make with the mouth, it's okay to continue speaking your like both languages. There's no impact.
Okay,
So that
thank
was
God.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Otherwise it
you
would
imagine
be
you have to speak to these two in Portuguese and then you switch to English for Sean? No, it's gonna
yeah,
be
yeah, you'll be too much. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
complicated. But yeah, so that I mean that was like I thought that was cute and funny to see Stephanie talking to my daughter and I cannot talk to her. And I'm like,
yeah,
how
you're
come you're
so
talking to her? She's like, yeah, she's actually singing that song. There's a song where they say, we're falling down. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even know that song, right? I don't know those
Because you
songs.
learned in preschool or in the daycare.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And now
Yeah.
I know all those songs. So for my second daughter, we know the songs, but for the first one, I had no idea. All those baby
Yeah.
songs and everything. I learned everything in French. Some are the same, like um, uh, brother Jack. Do you sleep? Stuff like that. We have this song in
Uh-huh.
French also, but some I don't know them at all. So I was like, I don't know what she's saying.
That's
Um,
actually, we should have made this list bigger, like the 10 advantage. But that is not advantage, it's just like some fun facts. Let's put it
fun
this way.
fact, yeah.
Fun facts that with the first child is much easier to keep the language stronger, like than
Hmm.
with the second and the third. You're gonna notice that with your second because they're
Hmm.
gonna speak between themselves in English, So
Yeah.
they're kind of like I noticed like it just kind of like gets less. Like my first learned a lot, and then
Yeah.
Sean, since he talks a lot with his brother, is like it just gets easier for like hear English most of the time, because
Hmm.
he's not speaking to him. Like Michael's not speaking in English with his brother, with his younger brother. So it's like it gets harder. The more kids you have, like they're just it's not as the first. It is the only one, and you're just focusing on one language only, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be talking their native language, which is English. You
Yeah.
know.
I mean, Eden is
Yeah.
already speaking. She speaks English to Naomi all the time. She doesn't speak French to her. But I think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fine for me as long as she can understand when I'm talking, as long as she can
Yeah.
communicate when she needs to. If one day I send her like a whole summer in France, I know she's gonna be fine with her grandmother or whatever, and she can communicate over there.
Yeah.
And she can read it. She's somewhere, I don't know, in a train station, and she needs to know direction in France. She can read, the sign or whatever. I'm good. She doesn't need to speak French all the time. I know we live in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Language
need
is
to.
English. Let's get rid of here.
Yeah.
She's not gonna speak French.
I know, like, because I had a
Oh.
friend who is Russian, and she had this obsession with they
Hmm.
have to speak only Russian, Russian, Russian. The boy didn't even know English. I'm like, you're
What?
living in the United States, and
Wow.
your child is like 5 and doesn't speak English. He eventually did, and you know
That's
what
not an
turned out to
advantage.
be that in the end he didn't want to speak Russian anymore. He's just like speaking English all the time. So
Of
I'm like,
course.
what are you doing? Like you're in the United States. Like it's okay for you to like want your child to learn a language.
Yeah.
And of course it's gonna be easier for them to learn even like taking the school like lessons and things like that.
Hmm.
It's gonna be much because if they don't want they don't know that well, they don't master the language, they go to a English, French school, Portuguese school, whatever.
Hmm.
But like so that they can learn and communicate a little bit, but like making it like no, you can only know one language until school, and then they get to school, they don't know, they can make friends. I mean, they can because they learn very quickly, but it's going to take
Yeah.
longer. Struggle.
That may
And
be
that's
like a
something I've noticed.
disadvantage.
Yeah, that some families do that. It's like a zero second language, and then they just go to school and like good luck with that. I'm like, I don't know. No
No, that's a bit,
extremes, right?
yeah, that's a bit too extreme and too obsessed. I mean,
Yeah,
his language is going to be it's the country where you live. I mean, my
yeah,
first language is French. That's it. I was born in France, and that's it.
yeah.
So why do you have to? As long as your kid can do both, you don't have to obsess, on it, because after they're going to resent it. They're not going to like it.
They're
They're
gonna
going to
be
be
like,
like,
oh, you
oh,
forced it.
I don't
Yeah,
want to speak that language. And
yeah, that's true.
I remember when Eden, like around like 4 years old, when she suspected that I could actually understand English, she's like, "Why am I speaking French with that lady?" Because
Yeah.
up to 4, she was speaking French to me. She was like always replying in French, and it was good.
Uh huh.
And when she realized that I actually spoke English and I couldn't, she's like, "Okay, I'm done. We're done here, ma'am. We are done.
Yeah.
Let's switch to the normal. Okay, the normal.
Normal. Speak normal, please.
Can we speak normal, please?" But you know what's funny? I always thought I was gonna have a bilingual kid. I don't know why.
Oh
Because
yeah.
first, yeah,
Ah.
I always thought, because I always wanted to live in another country. First of all, so I moved to Germany, and I was like, oh my god, my kids are gonna speak German, right? Then there
Mhm.
was a horrible trip over there. Maybe that's for another podcast.
I want to know. I want to know about
I
that.
will tell you, we have to do another podcast on that. That was, oh my god, I can't believe I never told you that story, but that was horrible experience I had over there, and you're gonna love them. And then I moved to England. And when I was in England, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to stay there. I'm going to have my life there. And I stayed there for 5 years. Then there was no man there for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to have babies there because there's no man to have baby with.
Yeah, so
But
nothing happening.
Yeah, nothing happening. But I don't know. In my heart, I already knew I would have bilingual kids. I don't know why. So
there you go.
Yeah,
and you have them.
It happened. Yeah. And I think that's it. Let me check my list. Yeah, so they watch French cartoons. Yeah, we talk about the cartoons. Let them, watch that.
Yeah, I think you covered them all. Yeah, the 5 advantages. Yeah, it's great. We're blessed.
We might have more fun fact later, but yeah.
Oh yes, fun facts. Yeah, about bilingual children.
Yes,
that'll be an interesting episode to do.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. And if you have bilingual kids, let us know. What are your struggles or your advantages?
Yes, let us know. Okay. All right. Talk to you later. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to High Vibes and a Mic. Until next time, laugh hard, stay silly, and never forget to bring your sense of humor. Please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest.